Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about another copyright lawsuit that is going through. We can add this one to the Terminator lawsuit, and the Friday the 13th lawsuit, among others. And again, it follows a lot in the line of the Friday the 13th lawsuit. And this one has to do with the Predator franchise. Now, Disney acquired the Predator franchise when they had the Fox buyout a number of years ago. And they've been working on a reboot of the franchise since then because the 2018 The Predator did not do very good at the box office, and a lot of people did not like it. I thought it was kind of amusing, although it was a bit stupid in parts. But as of right now, the original writers of the Predator script, Jim and John Thomas, they are basically pressing the copyright law that I've mentioned before in previous videos, where after a period of about 35 years, they have the ability to reclaim their quote-unquote intellectual property, and basically the idea would be is that they would hold the keys to the franchise, and Disney would then have to pay them in order to get the franchise back. Now, Disney does not want to have to do that because they were probably going to ask for a very large sum of money, since Predator is a massive franchise. So basically this is supposed to happen as of tomorrow, as of April 17th of this year. And if Disney doesn't settle with them before then in terms of, some kind of monetary compensation or something like that, so that they don't press this lawsuit in order to regain the rights, or if they get it so that they immediately sign over the rights as soon as it would revert, then they're kind of up shit creek, because they're going to wind up basically in the same spot where the Friday the 13th and all those franchises have been for the past couple of years, which is stuck in litigation in court. Now, to look at the legality of this, again, I say it follows the Friday the 13th franchise a lot in the sense of where this thing lies, because that is a very similar situation where the creators of the franchise, this was more of a work for hire type of thing, at least from what I can see as far as this goes, because the studio actually wanted the script rewritten by Shane Black at the time of filming, who Shane Black also plays Hawkins in the film. And they basically only put him in the film to try and see if they could con him into rewriting the script, in addition to also having a part in the movie. And when he basically told them to go pound sand unless they paid him money to do it, because he was only contracted as an actor, they killed him off in the movie because he's the first one to actually die. But now we have this situation where the two brothers have stated that they are probably going to file this. I assume it'll probably wind up getting filed on Monday, because there'll be a couple-day buffer zone. I don't know if you can file these things on Saturdays, which would be when the actual 35-year mark would be up. Well, technically it's not 35, I think, but it's 35 from the time of the finalization of the script. It's not necessarily when the movie came out. I think it's the finalization of the script and when the studio chose to move forward, with that script. So this could definitely stall things for Disney, and I'm not opposed to that, because I don't want another Predator movie. Predator is a concept that's very, very interesting. But the problem is that they expand on that concept a lot in the comic books and a lot of the existential media that was around the first two films. And they don't really expand upon it in the films themselves, in the later films. Predator 1, very simple, great movie. It knows what it is. It does everything great. Then Predator 2, you change the setting, and okay, it's a little bit different. You have a different hunter. You have a different hero. There's a lot of different things going on, and they're not trapped in an area. They're in a city full of people. So there's a lot of background changes, but the idea is still the same. The idea is still the same, where you have an alien hunter who's hunting people in a city, or who's hunting people, period. And in this case, it's in a city instead of a jungle. And then now then you move forward, and then you have Predators, which actually I didn't mind that movie, with Adrian Brody and Topher Grace, and Danny Trejo was in that, and a bunch of other people. it's an interesting concept, and I like that about it. But again, it's still kind of the same thing. It's just predators hunting people, and then you have the Alien versus Predator movies, which are literally only constructed to make those two characters kill each other. And then you have the 2018 Predator, which just fucks everything up to a weird extent because apparently autism is evolution. I don't understand how that works, but regardless, when they add those motivations, when you take away the simplicity of what the Predator is, I think that you wind up fucking that up. Now, the plot that Disney was actually supposedly moving forward with for Predator 5, and again, this is supposed, I don't believe this is official, is they were planning on setting it in the past. So, okay, I don't necessarily mind that idea. I mean, we've seen Predators fight opponents that are using, some form of a melee weapon instead of guns and stuff like that. There was a Yakuza fight in the Predators movie, the one with Adrian Brody, which was actually a really good fight. There was a few other instances in Predator 2. Danny Glover uses like the death disc that the Predator has to actually chop off the Predator's arm. There's a lot of stuff that they can do with that. And then even in the other Predators movies too, they've had instances where they've used different kinds of weapons like that. Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first movie with all the booby traps and stuff, and the bow and arrow, all that stuff was really interesting. But now this film, they're planning on following more of a formula where they want to do kind of what they were planning on doing with the original film, which I think is a bit interesting, is the idea of having the Predator go up against a Native American, which I think that's actually not a bad idea. I think that you can do that. I think you can do it actually very well because the idea is, okay, you have because in the first movie originally, it was actually supposed to take place where the Billy character was actually supposed to be the main character, and his background was Native American, and basically he was supposed to be the main character. He was supposed to be, trained how to track things and stuff like that. It's supposed to be Hunter versus Hunter. That was the idea. And then they wound up changing it, and then we wound up with the Dutch character and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and just turned into something amazing. But with this, they're going back to that idea, and they're going back to when Native Americans were just indigenous roaming tribes and stuff like that before settlers from Europe and stuff started showing up, or at least before they started moving further west. I assume it's probably going to be somewhere in the Midwest to western part of the United States at that time. So I like that aspect about it, but at the same time, it could very easily go south. And at the same time, it's also Disney at the helm, so you know that they're going to jam a bunch of message crap in there. So I don't have very much faith that they're going to be able to make a good Predator movie. They have shown that they're willing to, with other properties that they have acquired, they're willing to use the R rating, but they have also shown that they are willing to downgrade other properties that have had R ratings to PG-13, like what they did with Blade. So I'm not sold on that, and honestly, I think this is happening to a lot of '80s franchises right now because a lot of those writers realize that they can exploit this law, that they can exploit it to the extent that they will not. They can exploit it to the extent that they might be able to get these things back and make a really big paycheck, even though they're going to have to pay some legal fees in order to do it. Now, in terms of realistically, do I think that Jim and John Thomas are going to be able to win this lawsuit with Disney? I don't think so, because I doubt very much they have the money and the lawyers that Disney has. But they are going to be able to drag this thing out. And I think that's more the point, is they're going to drag this thing out as long as they can, and they're just going to hope for a slam dunk and try and get this thing. And Disney has tried to finagle their way out of different copyright things in court in the past. We've seen the whole thing where, extending copyrights to 100 years or something like that. I forget exactly what the marker is that they've had it extended to a couple of times in court, just to keep characters like Mickey Mouse and stuff from going into public domain. But it would be very interesting to see how this one actually works out, because all of the other ones that I'm aware of have been with smaller studios and smaller properties. I think Friday the 13th and Terminator are probably the two biggest ones. But Terminator was owned by, I think, I forget exactly what the studio was, but it wasn't a big studio. And Friday the 13th, the time was owned by or was held by Sean Cunningham's studio, who was the original director of the first film. Um, so this is the first time we've seen this happen, I think, with a large scale studio. So I'd be very curious to see how this winds up working itself out. But that's just kind of my opinion on this. I want to know what your opinion is. Do you want to see another Predator movie? Do you not want to see another Predator movie? Do you think the idea of making it set in the past and having the Predator, hunting somebody, a Native American or something like that, would be interesting? Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?